guys, today let's talk about igneous rocks. You may remember igneous rocks are formed with volcanic activity. I'll show you the difference between intrusive igneous rocks and extrusive igneous rocks. Intrusive igneous rocks form inside the volcano. Now, I guess it's not true that it's inside the volcano because all this magma is actually liquid. And it's not going to be rock while it's in liquid form. But if any of this magma in the magma chamber cools, that's when it's going to turn into rock. And the rock that this magma would turn into is intrusive igneous rock. Now, that's a little bit different from the extrusive rock. Once the volcano erupts and you have this lava which is flowing out, this lava will eventually cool. And when it does cool, it's going to form extrusive igneous rock. Extrusive on the outside of the volcano, intrusive on the inside of the volcano. Now this extrusive rock that's formed from this lava here is already on the surface, but you can have intrusive rock that forms on the surface, that gets to the surface as well. It's not formed there. But the intrusive rock, well, the mountain can erode, and this rock can end up at the surface, and you'll find out a little bit about some formations like that later on. Plus, you can also have the intrusive get to the surface through tectonic plates making another mountain. Let's take a look at some intrusive rocks. Here's an intrusive rock. You can see lots of specks. Here's another intrusive rock. You can see lots of specks. These specks of minerals are characteristic of an intrusive igneous rock. And the reason is it just takes a longer time to form an intrusive rock. So underneath the ground in the volcano, once the magma cools, it just takes longer to form. And as a result, it allows these minerals time to form inside the rock. Now that's not going to be the truth for the next kind of rock, the extrusive. But here's another intrusive rock. You can see plenty of minerals in there. But let's go to the extrusive. Extrusive rocks, you can see that you just don't have many specks. I mean, you just have very few streaks here, and these right up here may actually be air holes if they're not specks. But they're just not going to have as much time for minerals to form. The extrusive rocks are fast cooling. Now keep in mind, this is lava which has already come to the surface, and it cools quickly. So as a result, you just don't have time for many minerals to form. So if you were to see two igneous rocks, the ones that have the fewer minerals like this, they're going to be ones that are extrusive. But if it has a lot of minerals, like this, then it's going to be intrusive. Now, as I scroll back down here to these extrusive rocks, you can see most of these rocks are dark, but we do have one here that is very light. And that brings up the point about silicates. Most igneous rock are silicates. You may remember this is a kind of mineral, has a lot of silicon and oxygen in it, and the same thing holds true for rocks. If it has silicon and oxygen in it, it's going to be called a silicate. But scientists actually classify rocks by how much silicate is in it. If it is high in silica, it is light in color. And you can see this one is light in color, means it's high in silica. The ones before you were dark in color, which means it is low in silica. Now that's not going to mean much except when it comes to volcanoes. The volcanoes that have the most violent eruptions are the ones whose lava are light in color or high in silicate. You can see here this really white plume of smoke. This is a violent eruption from this volcano. But the ones that are dark, that are low in silicate, have just a small little eruption. Now this may look fiery and dark, but it's just not going to travel near the distance and have near as much effect as these volcanoes that have the light plume of smoke that really can damage things hundreds of miles away. Now let's talk about different kinds of formations that you could have with these intrusive and extrusive rocks. I have a formation here that is actually intrusive. It doesn't look intrusive because it's on the outside, it's on the surface. But here's what has happened. These intrusive rocks are very, very hard, much harder than the sedimentary rock that's all around it. So even though this igneous rock formation was under the ground, it had sedimentary rock all around it, and the sedimentary rock, through hundreds of years of erosion, has went away in the wind. So all you have left here is the harder rock, the igneous rock formation. In fact, scientists think that this was probably a magma chamber inside a volcano at one point. It hardened whenever the volcano stopped being, and it ends up standing while all the land around it is not. This is kind of like ship rock in New Mexico. Ship rock is kind of a very famous intrusive igneous rock formation. Here's another one. You can see it just forms like big sails of rock, and all this around it was sedimentary rock, which just is no longer there because of the erosion that has happened. Now, when we talk about extrusive rock formations, this is going to be a whole lot different. I mean, these intrusive stick up really, really high. They're really, really hard. The extrusive rock comes from flowing lava. So as a result, it's going to coat the mountain, the volcano, kind of like chocolate on a chocolate-covered peanut. It's just going to coat it and coat it and coat it. And I'm going to get down to the very last slide here to show you an extrusive rock formation. This is on the Hawaiian Islands. So the lava from the volcanoes on the Hawaiian Island flows, and it's going to end up cooling. And you can see all this dark rock here, which is lava that has cooled. And what it basically does, every time these mountains erupt, these volcanoes erupt, it adds another layer of rock. So the Hawaiian Islands themselves are an extrusive rock formation, and scientists think these islands were once below the surface. Okay.
I do actually have a little bit more to this video. I have what appears to be a quiz, but you don't have to write these down. But since we've had a couple of videos on rocks, I'd like for you to see if you can figure out the answers to these. The first one says intrusive igneous, extrusive igneous is 2, then sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous. Let's see what these are. Which one forms under a lot of heat and pressure? And I think you probably know this one. It's going to be metamorphic. Obsidian is an example. Okay, obsidian is going to be an igneous rock, but in this case I'm talking about 1 or 2. See what you remember about obsidian from the last video. Obsidian is formed outside the volcano and does not tend to have any mineral crystals on it. So since it's formed outside the volcano, it is an extrusive igneous rock. This is formed when lava or magma dries. What do you think the answer is? This is going to be igneous. What about letter D? These have, these have specks, not layers of mineral crystals. While you're thinking, I will try to change that. So what do you think? This is going to be the intrusive igneous. They have those specks because it takes them a while to form. You may recall that from this video. And the ones that typically have the specks of minerals in it are going to be intrusive igneous, which of course means that E is sedimentary. Most of these are on the Earth's surface. You may remember a good large percentage, I think it was 75%, of the rocks on the Earth's surface are sedimentary. Hey, hope you did well in this review and you learned a little bit more about igneous rocks.